Hey, Jessica. How are you doing lately? I just had a conversation with my mom over the phone and found out that you're almost finished with your dream house. Is that right? Congratulations on that! I'm so happy for you and your husband. I'm looking forward to your housewarming party. Just kidding. I know you're not the type to throw a big party. That's true. We're so ready to move in as soon as we can. We've been working on this project for months and we're finally seeing the results. Once we're done moving in and all settled down, you should drop by sometime. We can't wait to show you around, Hannah. However, I have to warn you that there's not much fun around here, to be honest. Going out to the city takes forever, which I can't get used to yet. It's like living in a different world. Yeah, it's right. Life there is always so boring. I don't go out often, so I don't have many friends around. I mean, after all, that's the reason why I decided to leave the area and move to the big city. I couldn't stand how boring things got. Even though I was raised there and became fond of my hometown. I totally understand what you mean. But you know what? I'm actually starting to love living here with all the nature around us. I couldn't find that in the city where I lived before. Of course, there are times when I feel the downside of living here too. Sometimes I realize that getting anything done takes a whole day's work, and it's very inconvenient. Not to mention how important it is to get along with our neighbors when it's such a small community like ours. Ugh, it would be horrible to live in a small town with neighbors that hate us, and we need to be careful interacting with them. I totally get how you feel. It was even worse when I lived there as a child. My mother was quite famous among residents in the area. Everyone knew us, so it felt like we were constantly being watched and judged by them. They would gossip about every move I made and criticize me for everything. I know it's not a terrible place overall, but people recognize you because your mother used to be the local school principal, right? How was she like back then? I'm kind of curious. That's right. Although we have multiple schools in the area now, there was only one back in the day. Since she was the principal at the only school in town, many of the locals were her students at one point or another. That's why people recognized and came up to me often, even if I didn't know them personally. I see. Though you might have a hard time because of it, I'm actually proud to have someone like that as my mother-in-law. She must have been an amazing person to take on such an important role and educate so many people. I wish I knew her back then. She seems to be a cool teacher. I guess you could say that. But she's been retired for a while now, that I sometimes forget that was her job. She gave birth to me quite late in her life, and I only remember her as a somewhat outdated person who did everything the traditional way. That's why I tend to see her more as a grandparent figure than a mother. Oh, don't say that. If your mother hears what you just said, she might get upset, you know? She's still quite active for her age and loves to do new things. I guess you have a point there. She's so active for her age that sometimes I get concerned about her health. Anyways, are you sure about having me over at your house? You seem to be very busy lately, so I don't want to be causing you more trouble or stress. Plus, you must be having a hard time making arrangements with my mother since she can be quite stubborn and demanding at times. Oh, you don't have to worry about any of that. It's nothing compared to what we've been through together as friends and family members. We built a brand new house instead of renting, just so that we could live together with your mother and take care of her. You should simply think of it as your own house, you know? We are a family after all. You can feel free to visit whenever you want to. We'll always welcome you with our arms wide open and a big smile on our faces. Are you sure? If that's the case, thank you so much. I appreciate that you feel that way with me. Once you finish moving in, I'll make sure to visit. I'll have to bring some gifts to celebrate this once-in-a-lifetime event. Maybe some flowers, chocolates, or wine. What do you think? OMG, I'll be looking forward to it. Though, I do think we'll be pretty busy getting ready to move for a couple more days. I would appreciate it if you could come over once everything's settled down and we're ready to welcome you in. It would be nice to have some quality time with you and catch up on everything. Oh, of course! I can wait until you're ready. Just let me know when the time comes. You've already started preparations to move in, though, right? Yes, I've been preparing for days with my husband, but it's taking forever. I didn't think it would take so long. Organizing and packing our stuff is only part of the process. But that alone is quite a pain in the neck. I think it'll take a while until we finish the whole process and say goodbye to our old place. You must be tired from all that. Make sure to get some rest when you can. My mother started preparing her move as well, so she's been acting quite busy lately. Like, when I went over to her house the other day, she was emptying all her shelves and drawers, so it was such a mess. I didn't know she owned so many things until I saw her taking everything out. I noticed that your mother has a lot of belongings to bring with her to the new house. It must be a daunting task to do that by herself, so I was thinking of going over there and lending her a hand with the packing. That way we can speed up the process and finish it sooner. Ah, thank you. I would be very grateful if you could do that for her. She definitely needs some assistance with getting the job done. No problem at all. You can count on me. By the way, Hannah, there's something I've been meaning to ask you about your mother. Did she say anything about us when you talked to her? No, not that I can remember. She didn't mention anything specific. Why do you ask? Did something happen between you and my mother? Well, you know how your mother was generous enough to pay for all the initial expenses necessary to build the new house. I've been feeling anxious and uneasy, thinking that she might be displeased with us and having trouble communicating with us directly about it. Has she told you anything about it? I would like to know if we can do something for her. Oh, is that what's been bothering you? What made you think my mother would feel that way? There's no chance she would think that way. My mother has been very excited and enthusiastic about the whole idea of getting to live with the two of you ever since you proposed it. She was very happy to hear that you were willing to do so, even though there are many young couples who prefer not to live with their in-laws nowadays. So, you don't have to worry about anything. It's all on good terms. I really hope that's the case, but I can't help getting worried about it. By the way, I wanted to reassure you that once we have the means to, we'll start paying back the expenses right away. Tell your mother that she doesn't have to worry about the financial issue at all. Of course, we both know that you would do that. We'd never doubt that you guys would keep your promise. My brother said the same thing to my mother the other day, but you both don't need to worry about how we feel. My mother says that she trusts you too. Really? Oh, I'm so glad she thinks of us that way. Tell her I said thank you. Oh no. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think I have to get going now. I forgot I was in the middle of packing our stuff and I should probably get back to business. That's totally fine. My lunch break was about to end soon, so I have to get going too. Well, I hope everything works out smoothly. I'll be looking forward to seeing the new house soon. So let me know when things settle down. Jessica? What on earth is going on? Why did you and my brother refuse to let my mother in when she arrived to move in with you? She traveled a long distance to get here. Besides, she was the one who spent all her savings to help you two build a house. Yet, when she showed up at your doorstep, you left her outside in the pouring rain. Hey, Hannah, I'm not really sure what you're referring to. Can you be more specific? Did something happen? Don't play dumb with me. I'm sick of your lies. My mother suddenly appeared at my door with all her luggage in tow. Wasn't she supposed to move in with you guys today? Why didn't you guys let my mother into the new house? Is there a problem with my mother moving in today? Oh, is that what you're talking about? I've already discussed this with your mother, but I guess I should inform you as well. My husband and I decided that it would be better if we didn't live with your mother. If she's not staying here, this isn't her house, right? So I think it makes sense to have her leave. We don't want her luggage when she won't be living with us. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you to explain why you decided to change plans without consulting either one of us about it. We could have at least talked about it beforehand. Plus, didn't you say that you wanted to build a new house because you wanted to live with my mother? Why would you say that you changed your mind on the day she's moving in? After she's done preparing everything. I mean, you could have said that before construction started, you know? You asked me to explain myself, but there isn't much for me to say to you or your mother. I mean, we never intended to live with her in the first place. She's a useless person. She's old. And if we were to stay with her, I'd have to worry about her a lot. And then, I'd be like a nurse to her. There isn't any reason to let her stay if that's the case. Don't you agree? Excuse me? What do you mean? You never intended to live with her? Neither my mother nor I have heard any of this until now. Of course you wouldn't know any of it. This is the first time I brought it up. Stop laughing. I'm not asking for your nonsense. Is my brother aware of all of this? I mean, he has to know, right? You know, your brother and I were together at the door when we told your mother she wasn't welcome to stay with us. So, of course he knows about everything. You and your mother were the only ones who were clueless. How dare you two? I can't believe you guys have the nerve to do something like this without hesitation. So your plan was to lie about wanting to live with my mother in order to make her pay for the expenses all along? I mean, I don't like how you put it in a terrible way, but I guess that's the general idea. Now that you know how things are, forget about it. We don't want to live with her, so it's never gonna happen. Also, remember how I mentioned you could come over to visit us before? I only said that to be polite. I didn't actually mean it. So don't you dare think about actually visiting us, okay? It would be annoying. And you aren't welcomed in our house. I can't believe it. Both you and my brother are the absolute worst. You better not think you can get away with such a selfish explanation. Say whatever you want, but we already have the house to ourselves and we don't plan to give it away. Your making a fuss about it isn't going to change anything. My mother was the one who paid for all the costs necessary for the construction of the house. Doesn't that mean she's the one who has rights over the property? I will have you leave the house immediately, so you better prepare yourselves. I won't let you get your way so easily. Ugh, you and your mother are so alike. I can't help but laugh. Both of you are really stupid. Did you really think that we hadn't thought it through beforehand? That won't work. What do you mean it won't work? There shouldn't be anything wrong with my logic. My mother owns the house, so she will be getting it back. I mean, you're right about the money. It was your mother who paid for all the expenses of the house. However, everything is registered under my husband's name and not your mother. You two don't have the rights to this house, nor do you have a say for what we do with it. So there's no way you can kick us out. Why isn't the house under my mother's name? Isn't it supposed to be registered under the name of the person who paid? I don't recall my brother paying anything, so it can't be under his name. You remember how we told your mother that we would pay her back the expenses sometime in the near future, right? When we said that, your mother mentioned that the house is supposed to become our property eventually. That's why she suggested registering the house under my husband's name instead of her own. She said that it would be better for us that way later on. I'm really thankful she did that for us. Thanks to her, the house is legally ours and she can't do anything about it. Well, you should at least pay her back the money she spent on the house. That house was only built under the promise that you would pay her back, wasn't it? If you insist on breaking the promise, you can't just keep the house to yourselves. That was only a verbal agreement, so I don't see why we should pay her back. It's not like we have any legal documents to prove that we agreed on such terms. Without a binding contract, there's no legal enforcement of the promise. So no, we won't be paying back a single cent. You are such a scumbag! What is up with you two? What is my mother to the two of you? I guess, like, a convenient wallet? But it seems like she doesn't have much money left, so I guess she isn't even useful as a wallet anymore. Too bad we couldn't get more out of her. That's the deal, so you should forget about getting us to pay. How can you say that? My mother is currently living off of her retirement fund alone. The money she used for your house was the money she inherited from my late father. Please give it back to her. That's all the savings she had left. Without it, my mother has no means to live a stable life in the last years. I don't care what you're trying to say. Did you really think that a sad backstory would persuade us to pay her back the money? There's no way that would work, you know. How dumb can you be? Ugh, that has nothing to do with either of us. She should have thought about that before paying for everything. Even if it has nothing to do with you directly, it should matter for my brother. This is his mother's future we're talking about. But really, how could you be so heartless? You're causing the problem for her. If that's the issue, I'll just have my husband cut all ties with your mother. That way, we're not related to her or her problems, are we? From today onwards, we're unrelated. Do you realize how serious everything you're saying is? There is no way my brother would agree to that. Is your skull made of granite? I'm literally telling you he did agree to that, you dummy. He would never say that to me. Not a single time has he gone against my word. That's why he hasn't said anything after I kicked your mother out. I thought you'd realize that, but I guess you can't with that small brain of yours. So you're saying that both you and my brother are cutting all ties with my mother. In that case, no matter what happens to my mother, you two have no connection to her, right? Ugh, why are you making me repeat myself? That's what I've been saying all along. Have you been listening at all? You're really persistent. It's getting on my nerves. Now that we have the house in our possession, we can't be bothered to take care of your mother. We don't care enough to take care of her without a reason, so if you want someone to look after her, you can do that on your own. We have nothing to do with her anymore. All right. I guess that you won't be changing your mind no matter what I say on this matter. Are you sure you want to go through with this? There's no taking it back, even if you regret your decision later on. That's what I've said over and over. I'm tired of having to repeat myself. Keep in mind that I'll be cutting ties with you as well. I've had enough of talking with you. Stop whining over the same thing. It's getting very annoying. I get it. I won't say anything anymore. I mean, we're not family anymore, right? It's unfortunate how you won't pay my mother back. But I guess there isn't much we can do about it. I'm glad you finally seem to understand. By then, I won't be contacting you ever again. I hope you and your mother have a miserable life together. Have fun living in poverty! In the meantime, my husband and I will live happily in this brand new house. Hannah, where is your mom? I need you to get her back to our house now. What? Are you serious? Why do you suddenly want my mom to come back to your house after you treated her so poorly and kicked her out? Or do you have some plan to get more money from my mother? If that's the case, you don't need to bother because she's already penniless after being duped by a wonderful daughter-in-law like you. It's not like that. I really need her back here. Oh sure, you need a slave for your family. Like you said, she's too old to do the housework for you. That doesn't matter right now. Just answer my question. Where is your mother right now? I need her as soon as possible. Whoa, calm down. It's just like you said. She's moved into my place and we've been living together ever since you kicked her out. Moreover, you said you wanted nothing to do with my mother, didn't you? If that's the case, why do I need to take my mother there? Your house is a stranger's house to us. There's no way I'm doing that. Ugh, I don't care about that anymore. You can pretend we never cut ties in the first place. Do whatever you want. I just need you to bring your mother back to our house and return. I can't stand living like this any longer. Oh, so I see you finally realized your mistake. Did you finally understand how powerful my mother is? I expected you to give in much earlier, but you were able to endure the pressure longer than I imagined. What do you mean? You expected this? What are you trying to say? You seem to understand the situation for yourself, Jessica. I don't think I need to explain it to you, do I? How does it feel? Living in complete isolation from your neighbors. How do you know I'm being isolated? I never told you that, did I? Well, I was the one who set up that situation for you, so of course I would know. It took a lot of time to prepare this, you know. I had to follow my mother, who was going around to bid goodbye to all the neighbors and explain her situation. What do you mean? You explained her situation? You mean you went around telling all the details of why your mother moved out? Exactly. You know how that area is. The suburbs, far from the city. That also means that the community is tight-knit. That makes it much easier for rumors like this to spread like wildfire. I knew that would happen once these rumors got out, and I thought I'd take the opportunity. It seems like I don't have to ask how things turned out in the end. What have you done to us? Did you know that there's been rumors going around the neighborhood saying that we kicked your mother out of the house? There's no way we can live here in peace anymore. How dare you put us down like this? A rumor is something that isn't true. All I did was accompany my mother when she was talking with the neighbors about what happened. It was your own actions that caused a problem in the first place. So if you're mad, you should be mad at your past self. We didn't do anything wrong. That doesn't mean you had to go this far. I can't believe we have to live like this just because of a simple rumor either. I mean, it's just a rumor. So why do we have to be treated this way? This is why I hate the countryside. I've mentioned this before, but remember how a lot of the residents in that area are my mother's former students? Since my mother was quite old-fashioned, she would try to communicate with students in need whenever she had the chance. If a student seemed to have a problem, she wouldn't hesitate to make me talk to them individually. Eventually, she got to know her students very well. That's why a lot of them still rely on my mother as someone they can go to when in need. That's the kind of person my mother is. Do you think you could get away with nothing after treating her like that? That should be a story from back in the day, though. Now she's just a plain old hag in retirement. There's been quite a lot of people who've been helped by that hag in tough times. They say that they won't ever forget she helped them out. Some of her former students come to visit us to this day. Most of them have grown up to become remarkable individuals. Some are even CEOs of well-known companies, so she has many connections. You two decided to mock someone who was respected by so many people. Don't mess with me! I can't believe our lives are in misery because of an outdated person like her! This shouldn't be allowed. You two were the ones who put my mother's life into misery first. In fact, you guys went even further by refusing to pay her back on top of everything. Wouldn't you say that you put her through more misery than us, Jessica? And what if we did that? It doesn't matter. You know, paying her back was never a formal agreement anyways. Why do you keep complaining about such a thing? If that's your logic, there's no justification for your complaints either. All we did was tell people the truth. No! What you did to us is defamation. We'll sue both you and your mother for what you've done, so you better prepare yourselves. What we did is simply explain the reason why my mother was moving out when people asked us why she was leaving. If you think that's considered defamation, Then we can't even have a regular conversation with other people, if you understand. Forget about the issue and accept the situation you're in. Did you think we would simply back down like that? We're being ostracized by the entire community, you know? How are we supposed to continue living like this? I don't know. My mother and I have moved out from the area, so it's not like we care. Good luck. Don't brush it off like that. Aren't we family? Please help us out. We really need it. Didn't you and my brother cut ties with us already? You guys are strangers to us, so there's no reason for us to help you out. I mentioned earlier that we would take that back, right? If you're still mad about the money for the house, we'll allow you guys to live here. Just help us immediately. Oh, we don't care about the house anymore, so no thank you. We plan to sue you for the issue anyways. What? What do you mean you'll sue us? Just like you mentioned, there was no official agreement about paying my mother back the expenses. Therefore, there's no legal enforcement regarding the promise you made with her. See? That's what I thought. So then it should be impossible for you to sue us for it. Well, what do you think would happen if that conversation was documented somewhere? Even if there was no binding contract, wouldn't you think that we could sue you for not keeping your promise? Are you trying to threaten us like that? There's no way you would have such evidence. The thing is, we actually do have evidence. You and your mother should have talked about money over the phone in the past. When you did that, didn't you call my mom's home phone? What if I did? Well, you know, my mother's getting old, and I get worried about her all the time. To feel safe, we changed the home phone to one that could record conversations just in case something happened. I went back and checked the audio recordings left on the phone, and found that the conversation between you and my mother was still saved on it. Wait, what? So, you're saying you can actually sue us? Exactly. We've been talking to a lawyer about the situation for a while now. It's only a matter of time until things are finalized and our lawyer reaches out to you two. Sooner or later, we'll have you pay back all the money you took from my mother. Wait a minute. Living here while all our neighbors hate us is quite a struggle on its own, you know? And now you're going to take our money on top of this? That's not a nice way to put it. You make it sound like we're in the wrong. I'm just having you return the money you stole from my mother. Is there a problem with what I'm doing? Of course there is. If you do that, we won't even be able to afford moving out of this uncomfortable place. Do you want us to continue living here while everyone looks down on us? Don't make me repeat myself. That's what I've been saying all along. Have you been listening at all? You two are the ones who decided to take advantage of my mother's kindness for your own good. You just got what you deserved. So prepare yourselves. My mother and I decided to sue my brother and Jessica for what they did to us. We have a voice recording of their conversation, but it wasn't enough proof to win the case. So we contacted some of their friends and asked them about the situation. It turned out that they had bragged about getting a free house from my mother and how they tricked her into signing it over to them. They had no intention of paying her back, and they thought they were smart for doing so. Their friends were shocked and disgusted by their behavior, and they agreed to testify against them in court. With their help, it was easy to prove their guilt and expose their lies. We managed to get some of the money back from them, but not all. My brother and Jessica are struggling now. They have no money, no friends, and no respect. The neighbors hate them for mistreating my mother, who was a kind and generous person. They shun them and gossip about them behind their backs. My sister-in-law and brother chose this path, so I don't care about them. They're not my family anymore. My mother and I moved to a bigger place, far away from them. We found a nice apartment in a quiet neighborhood where we can start fresh. We plan to live together and support each other, as we always have done. We are happy and grateful for each other, and we don't need anyone else.